And welcome to another edition of the Best of Three podcast. I'm Alvin, that's Torrey, and we're coming to you right after the women's WTA Doha 1000 has wrapped up. So we're gonna get into that today. But first and foremost, TH, how you feeling?
I'm good, Alvin. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I feel like we haven't done a standard best of three podcast in a while. Australian Open Grand Slams tend to treat us a little differently, so we present ourselves a little differently. But we are here, a standard this week podcast.
I finally caught up on my sleep from Australia, within the last week
Seriously,
or two, you know what I mean?
feeling
So,
human again.
yeah. I got
But
to
yeah,
miss
so
it
let's
all at the
let's
same time,
all at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's waste no time. I mean, it's women wrapped up yesterday in Doha. Karolína Muchová took down Vicky Mboko 6-4, 7-5 in the final of that event. This was a nice one for those of us who maybe, if you're at home working from home, and it's a nice one to put on the background. It's got decent hours for us.
Yep.
Able to keep some eyes on some good tennis. I think some of the storylines to kind of cover, and obviously we're going to talk about both Vicky and Karolína here primarily, but some of our top seeds bounced out a little early. Coco being one of them, lost her first match to Cocchiaretto, 4-2. I mean, Maria Sakkari took down Iga in 3 sets. Maria had a fantastic week.
Yeah.
I mean, question mark, is she back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe so.
Certainly playing some good tennis, certainly playing some phenomenal tennis. And Cocchiaretto is not to be denied. She had that big win. Didn't she beat JPEG at Wembley last year? Was that
I think
like
that was her kind of like
coming out win? And
yeah.
they played a solid match. She has that certain, I like your word, profile. She has that certain profile that can really do some nice things to players on the, she attacks the second serve, kind of like Jasmine, her countrywoman, but she can tag from deep, Alvin. She can tag from deep, for her smaller stature, she absolutely tags the ball and controls things very, very well. I like her. I like her game. Quite frankly, plays and has good variety. You know what I mean? So she's a tough matchup, very savvy player. I enjoy watching her play. Unfortunate for Coco, but and JPEG both. You can't come at her traditionally. You know what I mean? You've got to kind of really know how to play her, and I felt like that was something that, I expect to see her being kinda a shark in the water, you know what I mean, for a lot of these, higher level players. She's proved already she can beat, top 5, level competition. It's only becoming more and more evident, so when you go into a match against her, she has that belief factor now too. She'll be tough to beat.
Nice. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the results kind of speak for themselves. I mean, it's not the Elisabetta Cocchiaretto podcast, but I think it's worth mentioning as we probably come back in a little bit to talk about Coco a bit. I think it's probably more about her, less about Elisabetta right now. But Zhang Qinwen also making her return, played some good tennis, pushed her back in a lost to her back in a 7-5 in the third in the round of 16. I just think it's kind of, when the Avengers are returning, it's good to have them around and healthy, and playing. So it's great to have her back. And you also, I was watching that match and I was like, I forgot how big she can hit the ball and how big she is. She is another one of these pushing 6 foot, can hit the big first serve, can absorb and return power as well. Like she is a match for someone like a Rybakina, a match for someone like Sabalenka. So it's just nice to have her back in the fold.
And perhaps made Rybakina play her better tennis midway through the tournament, which we've seen a few times as well. You heard it right here. That match may have been the tougher match. No shade and no offense on anybody else, but that match took a bit of starch out of the shirt for Rybakina. The ensuing matches she was not as sharp, as crisp, nor as punishing off the ground. And that, just from the few highlights that I saw, I'll make a case for that. And that's, hats off to Queen for making that happen. But at the same time, it's a long year. We'll see. But to your point, it's always good to see post Australia, right? Where is everybody? How is the dust settling? is it settling, for certain players? So it's good to see the shakeup that's happening right now.
Absolutely. But let's start with the winner of the event, Karolína Muchová. The announcer made a comment about it, and you brought it up before we started recording. It's been 6 years since she's won a WTA level event. She's obviously been a high performing player.
Yep.
Made the semifinals of multiple Grand Slams in that same time span, but has not gotten over the hump of being the one holding the trophy at the end of the event. Did you learn anything? I mean, Karolina Muchová is my favorite women's tennis player to watch, like
Yeah.
bar none. And I was a little skeptical, and I think on our year interview about uh, it wasn't whether or not she could perform. It's like a if healthy kind of thing.
Right.
But up to that point, she had not been healthy very often.
Sure.
It seems like she's in a run of good health right now, so maybe she is healthy. And so if that's the case, and this is what we get, I'm all for it. But did you learn anything necessarily new about Miss Muchová?
I think the one thing that I did learn is I didn't realize it had been that long since she won a title.
Sure.
And it just shows me how confidence can play such a big part in the game. We look at strokes, Alvin, we look at head-to-heads, right? We look at, and even in results, rankings, the uptick, the downtick, you know what I mean, as far as where they are and when the year and so on and so forth. But in the bucket of X factor, right, which I think confidence plays a large part. We don't always know what these players are dealing with on a personal level,
Absolutely.
How are they feeling the ball right now? How are they feeling about a win, about a loss? Um, I lose to you 7-5 in the third. All right.
Mhm.
And tell myself I played okay. I'll get it next time. I lose to you in straights 3 turns from now, right? I feel like I'm losing ground with you, right? I lose to you 3 years in a row. At some point, I'm like, I was right there with Alvin 3 years ago, right? And so the point I'm getting at is that to see her continue to battle through minus that tells me I like her grit. I like her. I like her mindset that she's continued to achieve it and done some nice things in the interim. And I'm not going to overplay the tournament as if that now solved everything, but it does show you how difficult it is to win titles at the at the tour level, right?
Right.
And it shows you how this could be a nice kickoff for her to kind of feel like, you know what, my confidence has taken a huge upshot going forward. So what did I see in the match? Nothing I haven't already seen from Carolina. But what I liked is I liked when, you have an upstart, Vicky Mboko, who's not necessarily new to the tour, but clearly within the last year has kind of announced her presence. She played about as savvy and about as patient and about as tactically smart as a player could, and that just showed me the veteran nature of all of what she was bringing to the table, especially after beating Rybakina. You had to think that this was Vicky's show. You know what I mean? And I just liked how she held serve. She did all the things you're supposed to do to win tennis matches and win tennis tournaments. Held serve, didn't make a lot of errors, matched up. Even when Victoria came with some huge forehands and kind of went through her, she had this kind of sense like, okay, I'll give you that. That's a good shot right there. I'm gonna give you that one. But we're gonna get back to this tactic because I don't think you can do that tactic the whole time.
Right.
And it
Right.
seemed like I'm gonna win the war of attrition with you with that play. And I realize in rally 3 through 5, and rally ball number 3 through 5, you're probably gonna tag one. And if I lay one up for you to tag, that's my fault. But if I can keep you moving and I can keep you, going up more open stance cross court, that's where I got you. And she played that tactic to a T. Anytime you get stretched out one more time, I'm gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And she came in and stuck I don't know how many volley winners at the right time. One was almost like a mini overhead that she jumped on and kind of smacked that. But I was impressed to see that her all court game really come to fruition. So what did I see? I saw a clean version, a tactical matchup of Karolina Muchová, who played, I thought, very, very smart and weathered the storm, weathered the occasional storm from Victoria. Tough match, very well contested, as the final should be, but I thought the all-court nature of her game gave her the edge, and she played well into that by continuing to keep Vicky on the move, to be able to go behind her at times, to be able to get her stretched out where she could float that ball up and give Karolina the edge. So it was, it's what she does so well, Karolina. So it was really nice to see her bring that out en route to the final, not just Victoria played flat.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of go with that, when I think about when Karolina Muchová is kind of in her zone, like what she does well is she uses variety as a weapon,
Mhm.
right? But in order to do that, she does need a little bit of time, right? And if you start to see the kind of, and I use the term a lot, the profile player that she will typically struggle with or bump up against, it is those Avenger style players that, those close to 6-footers, huge ground strokes where you can't necessarily squirrel up really, yeah, exactly, they're just coming at her with a lot of pace. You can't really finesse and massage your way against a ball that's being hit at a certain quality level. Especially like the women like Sabalenka, who are able to go big off of the first serve and then stay on you on both wings,
On both
uh,
ends.
both
Right.
wings. And so they also add in someone like a Coco Gauff, who doesn't necessarily hit it as big, but can neutralize a lot of that variety with her world
Big.
class movement, right? So like
Yep.
the drop shots don't work as well.
Yep.
You get Coco moving, she's like, please more. I'm better in these corners than I am from the middle of the court.
Yep.
So I think that when you take a look at that profile that Karolina struggles with or bumps up against, you start to look at the players she played against. She had a really good draw too. Like she had
For her matchup,
for
right.
her matchup, right?
Mhm.
And that's nothing again, not her fault, right? She played Pliskova in the third round when she
Yeah.
would have scheduled to play. She would have played Anisimova, who retired in the third set against Pliskova
Right.
prior to that. So, it's a tournament. It's not the end
Yeah.
of the world.
And
These
would
things
have played
happen.
Rybakina in the final had it not been for Vicky in the quarter. So
Sure, and those are two players that you tend to see her be
struggle with.
challenged by.
Right.
I'll at least give her that, be challenged by. But to that, to her credit, you can only play who you play, right?
Sure.
And she was giving us, kind of full flight Muchová, like doing
Yeah.
all the things. And again, her poise in that final, got up triple break point, I think, to serve it out in the second set.
Yeah.
Uh, lost that game,
Lost the game.
got broken the very next game, and then now she's back on serve and
Right.
then but stayed calm, held, broke, and you just kind of saw her, like, she's had in those 6 years where she hasn't won a title, she's made many finals and hasn't been able to get through. You might expect her to be in a situation there where Vicky turns the tide and gets us into a third set, but no.
Yeah.
Karolina stayed tough, and I mean, it was great to see. And obviously,
Yep.
if she's healthy and she's playing, she's a top 10 player all day.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to only be 10 in the top 10, and Vicky is now one of them as well.
Right. Great time for her.
Yeah. I mean, Karolina, bravo, hats off. We're all ecstatic about that. We're going to change gears here and talk about Vicky a little bit.
Yeah.
Vicky, she played some of my favorite matches in this tournament, but I also realized that these matches kind of are she plays a lot of these types of matches where she gets into it with big hitters and ends up like it's a slow start, and then she comes back in the second set, and then she gets a hold of it in the third set, almost war of attrition. But when you're watching Victoria Mboko play tennis, what jumps off the screen to you as if we'll put this into a shield and sword? Like, what is her, like, why is she able to win matches? Like, what does she bring to the court every single time? And what does she do well to neutralize some other players? And we're going to kind of get into this about, like, where do we think, like, I think effectively, what is her highest? Like, where do we think her high end could be? But why has she been so successful on the tour in less than a year full time on the women's tour?
I'm going to paint a macro level, and I'm going to come back and paint X's and O's. Number one, and I remember talking to a lot of coaches and players before when I had some players that were out on the tour, and they kept making this point. They're new. There's not a lot of matches or a lot of scouting report on this player yet. While it's been a year and some change, still hasn't been that long that you've played Mboko to have any level of true database on how to play her.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing first. She's just now, if you think about it, Alvin, just now kind of making the runs where of the top 50 players, we're just now at a point, numerically speaking, where she's been able to play, you know, 60, 70% of the top 50, right? Because just
Right.
how the tennis has panned out. Where if she had been playing for 4 years, there's a good chance she's played everybody at least 3 or 4 times, right? There's still some matchups. This may be their second matchup, their third, their first. So that's number one. The scouting report on her and how they specifically match up is still very thin. Any young player will have that advantage for a certain length of time. Um, that's an overview. So I appreciate the girl's still 19.
Right.
She's still playing some phenomenal tennis, by the way.
Well,
Uh,
let's put it into context. Last year at this time, she was playing the Rome, uh, 75, like
right.
75K.
And a year before that, may have still been playing some junior slams. I mean, my point being,
Right.
we're talking warp speed. We're talking, and every time it happens, it happened with Coco, it happened with Mira, it's happening now with Iva Jovic. We tend to think this is normal. This is not normal. This is the 100% exception. Unfortunately, that most tennis parents and maybe even some juniors would like to have be their future, but this is actually way more the exception than the norm. So I just want to paint that picture. Number one, that she's that young for this to be happening. She's that young to be basically warp speed travel through the top 1,000 of women's tennis, let alone
Yeah.
the top 100, let alone the top 10 now, right? A year and some change later. So we have to understand that and give mad props. So so you have a ton of this confidence, and we talk about Muchova not winning a title in 6 years. This young lady's won a couple of titles within less than 18 months. So there's a lot of momentum going through this. There's a lot of things going through, and she had a absolute banner tournament, even though she came with and got edged out by Karolína in this final. Vicky, now coming down to more of a granular level, Vicky has speed, perhaps, and I'll say it, perhaps even a tad faster than Coco. And she's a similar mover, very fast. Sometimes she even overruns balls. I mean, it's what's kind of funny when I watch her sometimes. She actually overruns some forehands. You are but hits a bigger forehand when she's on the move, where Coco tends to use your pace against you or roll a little bit when she gets out wide in the wings, hoping you go back to her backhand. Vicky doesn't mind getting 2 more forehands, and she will clock the ball. So it's almost like her forehand gets better when there's pace on it,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
really she hits it clean cross like a Rybakina, like a Muchova. She can strike it almost mid-racket, not necessarily even at the tip. She will strike it so big and so fat that she catches all of it. She had a lot of what I call, winners when the person's caught flat-footed. So when you had a ball like that, that ball has such pace on it, and to some degree, you didn't know where she was going to go with it. That's a tough ball to handle. And if you average 2 or 3 of those a set, you're hitting the ball pretty well. If you average 5 to 6 or more, you got a big forehand. So if you
Right.
do 15 plus in a match, buddy, you're hitting a ball that people have to take notice of and have to say, I got to change tactics against you, because that's a ball you have all day. And I think that's the other part of it, is that her speed is there. Her serve is very underrated, especially the first serve on the deuce side. And I feel like her movement there, she is a very much the counter, what I used to call my counter punisher. She can move, she can hurt you, and she has a pretty good forehand in her own right when she's at a standstill. So there's a lot there. A lot of the better, as you call the Avengers, they are first serve, first strike, what we call in tennis serve +1. They are
Right.
serve
Yep.
+2. Right? So their first 3 balls off the rip are just, wow, blitzkrieg. I mean, just handle it or not, you're not going to get in the air. Vicky, to me, is ball 3 through 5, ball 3 through 6. She is extremely dangerous. Not a bad serve, don't get me wrong. Just maybe not as big or as strong. She's not as tall, right, as some of the other players, and can absolutely counter for those 2 or 3 shots. But now you start getting in the ball 3 through 5, 3 through 6. That's her wheelhouse. If she can be able to move, strike, move, counter, move, strike, boom. That's a Vicky Mboko rally right there, and she really likes that. She likes to move. She likes to have the ability to let her athleticism and her power let her take some things. I saw it a bit in the match. I forgot who she lost to in Australia, but the player went hard middle a lot on her, and it didn't let her have the same freedom on the wings to kind of do what she was wanting to do.
She
And
lost to, I think, Sabalenka
so
in
was
Australia, because
Sabalenka,
she beat Towson and then played
I
Sabalenka
remember
after
that.
that. Yep.
And in the Towson match, Towson, who hits a huge ball, actually out-hit her. I think she was down quite a bit in the second set. Ended up coming back and pushed that match 3 sets, if I'm not mistaken. But you could see Sabalenka watch the tape. I'm like, okay, I see. She can hurt me on that same ball in the corner. But if I drill that same ball middle, she might A, overrun, or B, be forced to go back cross, ain't much room left, and she'll miss that ball either net or wide, because that same ball that she's almost early on will now go wide instead of back cross court against me. And that's a tactic that I saw Muchova employed a little bit as well, with a handful of rallies that were just kind of hard middle, now I'll take you wide. And I think that's a good play against a really athletic player, instead of going behind him, because you can't go behind a player that is that fast and hurts you.
Right.
But you go more hard middle, and now that player is a little more handcuffed a little bit.
And she's not a natural dictator of play either. Like, to your
100%.
point, like she is one. She's not as big as you think. She's not as big stature from a stature standpoint as the ball she hits. She's only 5'8". Like for now, when you kind of think about that and go, like, Coco's 5'10", 5'11", and Iga's probably closer to 5'9", which is, we're talking about obviously inches here, small amounts, but she hits the backhand, especially the backhand. She hits the backhand so big for someone who is not that big. But you can, again, to your point, if you go through the middle, especially hard through the middle, one, she doesn't have anywhere to go with that ball. You put her in a position where she can't really create, like, inside out, like your Rybakinas, like your Sabalenkas can. Like, this is where Iga sometimes gets a little caught, because she wants to be able to, but it is not natural for her to dictate inside, moving out towards the corners. And I will say, I'll put Victoria Mboko's open stance backhand in the Louvre. That thing is perfect.
100%.
Perfect. The balance,
cross, doesn't matter.
I mean, she is on a skateboard, just yanking the rope out there. I'm like, I could watch her hit that shot all day.
She hit some of them against Rybakina. She hit one open stance down the line that was straight as a string. And I was like, wow. Speaking quick about that Rybakina match, Rybakina has a tendency to go cross court all the time. Step ups cross, hard balls cross, defending balls cross. She just first balls cross. I mean, she almost is cross court by default. There were points at which, if there was a half a second to get a jump, Vicky jumped across, like, know where it's going, and actually hurt her off that cross court ball either side. And I feel like it was almost a tactical error. You almost have to go back in and reprogram Elena, and okay, this time you have to go line.
Right.
And Vicky got so many, we call those points steals, right? She got so many steals in points where she was technically a bit behind or on the run, but because she had a jump on where the ball was going, she was able to steal those points from Elena Rybakina because of that speed and the ability to counter punish off that ball. So just a quick line where I thought Muchova did a good job of saying, okay, got it. And now you get that player a few balls 6 feet either side of the middle, right? That middle/middle cross. And now, buddy, you're not going to move to your right on the deuce and hit a backhand inside out on purpose. You don't have enough time to hit an inside out or inside on the forehand. It makes sense to move around. The ball's too big. And then there's that barrage. And I thought Muchova did a good job, and which she does normally, of creating pace, creating depth. And then she'll yank you back to either side, whichever side of the X she wants to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, she knows the next ball she runs you're going to have to slice, because every counter punisher gambles with time. And so when you gamble with time, you're going to go rip. Third ball, if it's not a hard slice can opener, you choose to rip one more. Well, now you're out of time. So if you get that next ball, it's definitely a float, if you get there at all. And that's when Muchova comes in with the, Muhammad Ali, float and sting, bam. And I think that's something that she's smart enough to know. And I think to Muchova's detriment at times, she wants to slow it back down to maintain that pace that she likes. And the Avengers types don't typically give her that amount of time. So it's funny. That's where the game of the matchups come down to. And I feel as much as anything, Alvin, the time is a huge component in these profiles to be able to understand how well they deal with it, how well they counter it, how well they handle and choose to go big or not big with the amount of time they have. And again, it's a wonderful battle of increments, right? But that's really where, depending on the day and the surface, that amount of time gamble, if you will, plays out.
Yeah, and the Rybakina and Mboko matchup is a really interesting one because they kind of force the other. It's one of those perfect like tennis matchups where their game styles just kind of meld into one another. Like
Right.
Rybakina wants to, like you said, go hard cross a lot, but
Yep.
that goes into Vicky's strength, which is moving and dealing with pace
Yep.
in the corner. So it is a who can execute what they want to do better slightly, who's going to serve a little bit better that day. Vicky is not afraid of anybody's second serve. She gets up inside the court to take second serves like it's juniors. Like
Yep.
she's like, I'm standing 5 feet inside the court on this second serve. I don't
Yep.
care who's over there.
Right.
I'm going short backswing. I'm slapping the crap out of this ball.
Yep.
So it's really interesting, and that considering Vicky's been on tour. I would say effectively since Miami of last year, really, and then probably more effectively since French Open of last year.
Right.
She's played Rybakina 4 times.
Yeah.
And the first time they played was in DC last year, and I was there. I sat 3 rows back, and I watched the entire match, and I was just like, this is a really, really interesting matchup because Rybakina comes out guns blazing.
Yep.
That's a lot of pace. Like Vicky's dealing with a lot, but then she neutralized and made Rybakina work for it.
Yeah.
A few tournaments later, they play again in Montreal, and then Vicky takes her out 7-6 in the third. So,
that week, didn't she?
yeah. And then Rybakina comes back and beats her in Japan.
Yeah.
Later on in the fall, and now Vicky wins here in the desert. So this is a really, really interesting matchup. I don't think it's going anywhere because both ladies looks like they both tend to make the latter end of events. So this is one. It's a little bit of a rivalry. I mean,
sure.
And things I've noticed in Vicky, like in the last few months, is, I mean, you think about her, you can picture that smile. She's like, lit up being on the court. She was about the business this week. There was no smiling. She was just there, like head down. The match against Andreeva, they're not much smiling. The match against Rybakina, not much smiling. She was dead set pissed after she lost to Muchova. Like the trophy ceremony was. I mean, you were a little salty before we got on this morning. She was salty in that trophy presentation. So it's she's coming of age right in front of our eyes. Top 10 player come Monday. That's a big deal.
And who's she pushing out, Alvin? That was my question to you. There's a couple people getting pushed because Muchova's going to be top 10 now too, correct?
Muchova might be it'll be close. I think she might be 10. It'll probably be pushing out like maybe Paolini. Maybe Paolini. No, Svitolina and then Alexandrova. So it'll be tight. It'll be tight right there.
But my point is, when you say somebody's pushing in, somebody's getting pushed out. And my point is, and so now that top 10, buddy, it's potent. Yeah, and Qinwen is not yet back full. I think she's still unprotected, right? So she's
got to be. Yeah, she's. Sitting at 26. I don't know how much protection she needs, but
when she went out, right? Wasn't she 4 or 5 at the time? I mean, when
she's top 10. Yeah.
No, she's 10. I thought it was 5 or 6. I mean, as far as the ranking. So not that she'll get in off number 5, but my point is that she's clearly missing from the top 10. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It wasn't like, she snuck in there and kind of snuck out, and, she was there for a while, top 5, inching up, going 3 with Sabalenka. So she was up there with that wrestling before she got hurt. I want to say, wasn't it Indian Wells of last year? I want to say that was the year right before she had checked that injury, and because she didn't play 2 of the slams last year.
Yeah, she missed Wimbledon and US Open. She played the French Open, Because I remember she beat Sabalenka right before French Open. I think it was Rome.
Right.
She beat Sabalenka, and that was a big deal for her. She had never beaten Sabalenka before.
Right.
And then I think she played in the French Open, and then that might have been, God, that might have been
Might have been it.
it.
Yeah.
That might have been it. She did play Wimbledon. So
Okay.
she lost to Sabalenka at Roland Garros. Uh, Played, I guess that would have been maybe the Queen's Club event. Lost to Anisimova, then lost the first round of Wimbledon and didn't play again until October.
Right.
And then this past week. So yeah, it's maybe she missed Australia last year. But anyways, regardless, it's not the Qinwen show, but it's good to have her. It's
Yeah.
good to have her back.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of switch gears a little bit here because along with this, the Mboko of things, she played a really tough match against Mira Andreeva.
Mhm.
Odd, it's kind of odd. She's older than Mira.
Yeah.
Just like you wouldn't think that because Mira's been on tour now for almost, it feels like 3 full years.
Yep.
But Victoria is older than Mira, and
Yep.
then you add in someone like Aniva Jovic. So like Victoria is 19, Mira's 18, Eva's 18. This is I mean, hell, Coco's only 21. This in itself is a cohort.
100%. The
Wait,
screenagers that you've got 3 screenagers on the, as you call it, on the trot, but I'm also gonna mention at this point when they are, quote, unquote, you know, announcing their presence, it doesn't matter, they're already here. I just continue to mention, and this is not normal. This is a treat for all of us. This is phenomenal tennis, and for them to be processing this at this speed, at this level, this rate, Alvin, this is darn near incredible. You don't have this happen that often, let alone 2 or 3 at a time.
right.
And so now as you are looking to me, what I like about it from a business standpoint and from a longevity standpoint, you know who your next several champions are going to be. They're already waiting in the wings, and they're peeking out from the curtain like, is it my turn? Yeah, you know what I mean. Am I on next? And because it is, as Coco's commercial with New Balances, yeah, we got next, buddy. We got now. We got the next court, and that you got several of them. Coco's not that much older. You've got a few of them that are all pushing to get to that next echelon, and buddy, anybody over 25, 26, buddy, they are past nipping at your heels. They are swimming as with you, if not past you, if you slip up. So I like that this upward pressure from these younger players are doing. And, we made a comment, you asked me a few pods ago about, are you worried about Mira Andreeva? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. She's still too young. If anything, some of her successes happened a bit too early, in my opinion. And now she's still developing who she is. She's still developing as a person. She's still developing
Right,
as a
right.
biologically and physically. She's still developing her getting her mind right. And sometimes you don't, they've had some success and you kind of where we the tennis fan and Gen Pop are so ready for that player to just take over. Hey, buddy, this is not easy and it's not normal. So allow them some time to mature, allow them some time to get out to get their legs under them. It's gonna be a fun year now that we see them continuing to improve and gain that much needed confidence and maturity in these matches.
And I wanted to kind of double click on this because you just mentioned it and it got my brain kind of going from a business standpoint, right? So like I'm gonna open that up and like what does that actually mean? I think you put it in present day terms as we look towards the next WTA Masters 1000 or WTA 1000, whatever, right? I think they're in Dubai now. I think maybe this week. Both Iga and Arena not participating, right?
Right.
That is a statement that they're both making about there's too much tennis. The demands are too high. The women are expected to play all 10 of the Masters 1000 events. I keep using the term Masters 1000. It's technically called something else, but the 1000 levels events. I think for them, their WTA rules state like to be eligible for the bonuses at the year
Bonus
end and
pool.
so on and so forth. It's for all 4 of the slams, all 10 of the Masters, and then 6 of the 17 500s. And when you start talking about the ladies who are making deep runs at these events, like there's at least very little time off, right? So Arena has not played. She missed Doha. She's skipping Dubai. That's 2 out of the 10 that she's like, I'm not doing it. Iga played Doha right after Australia, and then has decided to pull out of of Dubai, right? So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because from a business standpoint, right? Tournament organizers like I've lost my number 1 and number 2 player in the
Marquise.
world. Yeah, that's a big deal. But that leaves an opportunity for players who are climbing up the rankings, trying to build their profile within the game. Your screen majors, right? Your Mbokos, your Andreevas, your Jovic's. Okay, maybe it's that primetime match. We don't have Arena Sabalenka to put on, but you know what's a fun match? Like Iva Jovic against Amanda Anisimova would be a fantastic match to put on your primetime match. So that allows for other players to then build their profile within the sport, which it's rising tides lifts all boats here. Like the more attractive from a being well known, popular within outside of tennis,
Yep.
these ladies can become individually, the
Yep.
more popular tennis becomes holistically. So, but the other side is they have to be ready from a quality of tennis standpoint. So these women are producing high
That.
quality tennis. Boom. Now
Yep.
there's some opportunity for limelight. Boom. Put those two
Yep.
together. That is a win for the tour and for tennis on the whole. So I
Huge
think we're going to be okay.
point. Huge point. I think better than okay because the vacuum is now gonna be filled with a lot of supercharged particles. You're talking about you've now given that vacuum, and I'm gonna use the term that more so than loss of marquee. You've now had an opening. You're not gonna there's only one Arena Sabalenka. We understand that. There's only one Iga Swiatek. We get that, or Iga. We know there's only one Coco Gauff. We understand all that. We get that. Only one Atlanta Rybakina. The fact that these players are beating these players
Mm-hmm.
show or going 3 or beating, they are as good. Are they overall as polished, as well decorated? No, they haven't played as long yet. However, they are certainly competitive with in that same peer group as far as rankings, titles, and what have you. You cannot replace the trophy case of an Arena Sabalenka overnight
Right.
years, as it's taken her. So we're not here to ever see can replace Elena Rybakina and who has come. This is not her second kind of go run at things at the highest level. You cannot replace Arena Sabalenka, and nor. But here's the thing: that vacuum is now being filled with a bunch of players that are saying we are as don't sleep on us. We are as good, and when those players come back, we will have our teeth cut on even better competition, and it's going to even be better. So I'm more worried about the older players that are kind of on the edge, your Svitolinas, your benches, your older ones that are kind of hanging in there, that are right there on that Mendoza, because it's not getting any easier. And I'm really concerned for, that the players that are right that haven't yet made a true run into, but they have always kind of lingered around that 15, that 12 through 20, that have had some good showings. Your Clara Taus is a good example of that, who's wanting to claw her way into the top 10. It's not getting any easier. It is not getting any easier. So if I'm a tournament organizer, it's not like I'm dropping down to a lady who's 61 or 75. I'm dropping down to a number 12 who's now 8, or a number, or even a Karolína Muchová who's probably at what was she, probably 12 or 13, who's now gonna be
15,
10
16.
or
Yeah.
11, right? So I'm not dropping down too many tiers, and everybody that you've heard of. I heard a comment the other day watching the All-Star game, and the commentator and one of the writers was speaking of some of the players in the slam dunk contest, unfortunately, over the years have been, he used the term, some no names. And he
Yeah.
says these guys are all phenomenal athletes. But he said, but they're not names you recognize. And he was saying that the slam dunk contest, unfortunately, has lacked name recognition. So now you only know them from their prowess with the slam dunk contest. Some of them haven't even had a lot of playing time. And
Right.
so I put that in the context of this conversation. You've heard of Vicky Mboko. You've heard of Mira Andreeva. They have played a while now, and even if in their short career. And I think that's what I'm liking for the marketing standpoint. Add to that this one last piece, Alvin, that people don't always talk about, and they're only gonna get better. So
Right. Right.
it's not like they're finished, right? I just feel we always talk about the age and like they're so young. Yeah, age is one thing, but they are young and are getting better. The next time you see them, they're going to have more skills. Next time you see them, they're going to have this net worked out. You know, I firmly believe even Coco will come back with a better serve and a better forehand, 100%. And so now what does that do? She's even better. But she's even better now. She's retooled 2.0, 3.0 Coco will be a even better Coco, and she will be facing players. She had to get that good because the other players are forcing her to get that good. And who wins? Everyone, because the quality of product is just that much better, and each match is contested. They don't need to go 3 out of 5, you know. And I respect Craig.
Yeah, you can miss me with that. We're not. Yeah.
I love you, buddy. They don't need to go 3 out of 5 because the contest of each round is going to get tougher for them. There will be more Serena Williams 27-minute dispatch first round matches, you know,
right.
in the tour. Go ahead.
And I just want to go back to your point about, like, you know, they are still getting better. We look at Aryna Sabalenka as being the standard bearer right now for consistency at the top in women's tennis. She's 27 years old. She won her first Grand Slam 3 years ago. 2023 Australian Open was her first one. She was 24.
Right.
She was 24. She was chasing Iga up until that point, right? So I think it moves fast.
It does, man.
It moves. Things happen. Things. The scenario changes quickly. And in 3 years from now, you know, Vicky and Mira, we assume they'll be in the top 5, and they will be the ones challenging for Grand Slams at the ages of 21 and 22. Right? And then who are the 18-year-olds coming up behind them? Those 18-year-olds are currently 15. Right? So this is also a plug. Get a chance. Go out and watch some high-level juniors. Go watch the Orange Bowl. If you're going to the U.S. Open, take a look at the junior event while you're there. Do you want to get a look at what's coming in next year or the 2 years after that? They're right there in front of you. These players don't come from nowhere. They come from somewhere, and generally they're right here in front of your face. That's an aside, but yeah, this thing keeps moving, right? It just keeps moving, and winning slams at 19 is not the norm anymore. We're a little bit removed from that. The women who are winning these slams, they all kind of have this profile. They're big, they move, they hit hard, they serve hard, and that's what it takes. So when you're talking about physical strength, it takes a while to build that into your anatomy, right? It's hard to go from a girl to a woman, or from a boy to a man. You can't rush that. But as along the way, you can show some flashes of brilliance. And I think when you start watching, like when Vicky versus Mira in I don't remember what round that was. Maybe it was the quarterfinals of this tournament. It was like, okay, I'm watching the future here. That was only the second time that they've played on the tour, but it was such a good match where you're like, oh wow, like they're forcing the best out of each other. Like Mira's got the whole chef's tool bag here completely rolled out. Like I got to use every single knife, every single fork. I didn't even know I still had this knife. I got to use this one too. And then Vicky's just like, I gotta play more offensive. Like I gotta play on like the top end of my offensive spectrum to get through this woman. It's fun to watch. It's fun to. We don't just watch the Grand Slams. We watch the thousands because they're making adjustments coming out of the last Grand Slam and then going into the next one. Go ahead.
Do you think the Alcaraz and center of things who have been on their own self-proclaimed boycott, we're going to call it boycott of the other tournaments is having an effect on Iga, Aryna, and others saying, you know what, miss me with all that, it's too much tennis, my career is more important than that bonus pool. Okay, question A. Question B, related. Should the tour acquiesce and change some of these rules for the betterment of the longevity of the year? Almost in the sense of, should you get to said rounds, you are exempt for the next week, 2 weeks, and such to incentivize players to do better, and because let's face it, they're playing less volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while that might hurt the occasional immediately following tournament, there's a good chance you weren't going to get that finalist and that champion anyway. Let's be honest.
Sure.
We're taking that almost in stride as if that was going to happen. But my question is, should the tour, both tours, acquiesce and say, all right, players, we hear you. We hear you. We're going to keep within our confines. The bonus pool will be affected. We can't give you that, can't have you cake and eat it too. However, we will provide exemptions for champions, finalists, semifinalists for a week. And if you take the ding, you're going to take it down. I know it's a deeper question. I only mentioned to say, should they? And that's my point from you, from a tennis broadcasting. You've had a lot of broadcasting and TV, I should say, programming experience more than most. What say you on that?
So let me take the first question. Are the top women taking cues from, in this instance, the top men? Like, is Sabalenka and Iga, are they taking a page from Yannick and Carlos? I mean, absolutely. And I think Aryna has said it as much. Like, I need to start looking at what these guys are doing, because there's too much. There are too many demands, right? And so for them, like, they have both, I guess, both of these four players, the two top men and then the two top women currently, have identified that the slams are the most important things. Yep. And I need to do what I need to do in order to prepare myself to perform at the slams, which is generally I need a warm-up event going into the slam, generally Australia withstanding, and then the Masters 1000s are there. That's kind of the next tier of events that we're gauging towards. I think so. That's one. Yes to your first question. Two, second question. I don't think that the tours necessarily need to make an adjustment, and here's why. The policy is working for probably of the top 20 players who benefit from this bonus pool, 50 players, whatever it is. I don't know the exact cutoff. We're talking about 2 out of the 50 on each side that are choosing to go their own route, and that really is a reflection of their level of dominance, right? If you can continue to put yourselves in the last 2 rounds of a Grand Slam, every single Grand Slam, you are now not only are you making so much money that getting a ding from the bonus pool is not going to hurt you that much, right? You have to be preparing to be in the last 2 rounds of a Grand Slam, and there's a 2-round difference. Making the final versus losing in the quarters of a Grand Slam is 4 days difference, right?
Right, sometimes longer.
Right, that especially from the front end, right? It could be 5 days difference. So that's a big deal. Like someone like Amanda Anisimova loses in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, she now almost has a full week more rest than Aryna Sabalenka, who lost in the finals, right? So now when you're talking about going to Doha, which is the next event, it starts, Amanda won't have to play until the 3rd day of that event. She's got almost 10 days off between events. Right. That's probably it. And she only played 4 matches to begin with, probably 5 matches to begin with. That's probably a pretty good role for her. Okay, play a warm-up event, come to Australia, play 5 matches over, at that point, 10 days, right? Every 2 days she's playing. And then now she gets 10 days off in competition before she plays in the match. That looks, she might have played the exact same schedule as, let's say, Iga or Rybakina. I think Rybakina's probably a better use case because she made the final of Australia, also played a warm-up event, and then showed up in Doha. But she had 10 days in between, right? And that's a big deal.
Becomes, should she have?
Is 10 days too many? Is that what you're saying?
No. Should Rybakina have even played this event?
Right. That's there's she hasn't.
Right.
Yeah, she hasn't probably been consistently, like, I mean, Aryna has made the finals. She made the finals or semifinals of 5, 6 straight Grand Slams, right? She's expecting to go deep, right? She's healthy. She's consistent. Right. Okay, maybe Rybakina is not right back to that point yet. Her tennis is there, but we need to see as far as, like, can she hold up throughout the course of the year? So for her, she's still trying to make a lot of money. right? She doesn't have the Gucci
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah,
Arena does. Right?
yeah, Gucci Mane.
There's levels to this, right?
I'm with you, and it's a
She's
good
not
point,
she's
and
not
I
getting
don't
invited to play exhibitions for in different places
million.
to make up for it, right? So
Right.
I think so that's the part of it that is like I don't feel like they need to make an adjustment based on
On
what
those
would be net
exceptions.
4% of people.
Right.
Now, also the last thing I'll get to, and I'll give it back to you, is that the women uniquely have a little bit of a squeeze here in the schedule where they come out of the Grand Slam and they have back-to-back Masters 1000s, and the
Right.
men don't, right? The men don't have these two desert events. Their first 1000 isn't until Indian Wells first week of March. So there are a lot of 500s for them to choose from. Like
Right.
Carlos played Rotterdam last year. He didn't play it this year. He's going to play Doha instead, which is a week. I mean, where's he there? The men in Doha this week? Yeah. Um, it's a week later. So he's now not had to make any real changes. Like he hasn't lost anything, quote unquote, lost anything yet. Um, he just swapped his 500s and
Right.
got himself an extra week of rest.
Right.
So yeah, it's a the back to back 1000s right after the Grand Slam
Right.
is tricky for the women.
Which seems open if you're a tournament, director slash investment group wanting to fill in that quote unquote schedule. I just feel like at some point you got to look at it. The a quick question back: should Rybakina have played, or should she have taken the rest? She
That's a
looked flat, Alvin. She looked flat toward the end. She darn near looked tired. I'm not gonna.
yeah. That's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, we're having a different conversation. I think if she's able to hold it together in that match against Victoria. I mean, she lost her in 3 sets, right? I don't remember she had any opportunities to serve it out or not. I don't have the scores in front of me, but it's if she wins that match, are we concerned about it? Like, what is the
I,
expectation level?
here's my next question, because that was more of a feed. I think she lost in the quarters, so she didn't even make
Quarters
semifinals.
to Mboko is what it was.
Right.
Okay.
So number one, and as I said earlier, the Qinwen match gassed her. I mean, 100%. I mean that was a knockdown drag out.
Yep.
Question I'm mentioning is this is more of a follow up to my B question earlier. At what point will the tour suffer from a massive number of pullouts, withdrawals, injuries that will hurt their overall product as a result?
That's the Iga pulling out of Dubai is noteworthy. Arena not playing both Desert 1000s is also noteworthy. If Rybakina pulls out of this event, which I wouldn't be shocked if she did. Now, granted, it starts. I mean, it already started. I have to look at the draw, but that's when you start to get a little concerned,
Right.
because the women are put in a very precarious position with these back-to-back 1000s right after the Grand Slam. That's my biggest issue. It's not even really the back-to-back nature of the 1000s, because that happens all year long, right? And it's better to do it leading up to a slam. It kind of feels weird doing it right after a slam. I wonder what, like, the biggest loser here is your tournament organizers, right?
Yep.
You've paid this money to have this level of prestigious event, a Masters 1000, in which the women are required to be there.
Right.
And then they're not showing up, and they're not showing up because of, you know, any reason except for what the organizing body
Right.
has done to them from a calendar standpoint. Like, Arena's played this event, like, I think it's like 8 years in a row or something like that. And
Right.
then right now she's like, nah, I need the rest.
Right.
I need the rest. I'm not
And
coming over there.
which was my point. She hadn't done this before, to my
Right.
recent memory, and is the Carlos and Senna thing. What if the draw at a slam is affected by and I'm saying the marquee players in particular, is affected at a slam at the unfortunate improvement of a few 500s and 3 more, or in this case 2 more 1000s? You're cutting off your proverbial nose to spite your proverbial face. So to me, it has a bit of a, and again, I'm only playing devil's advocate. I don't know the answer. I know you have better answer than I do, having worked in TV and in the sports space. I only say at some point, you have to look at this. Last year's French was a big eye-opener for me in seeing so many injuries, so many retirements, so many withdrawals that I was like, wow, gotta look at this, guys. You do all this to improve your seeding to have a better French. You don't do this to spite the French. People are going to tune into the French, and they might tune into other events should the French be phenomenal. The French ended up working out okay. We had a great final. It was a phenomenal tournament, but it was carried by two guys who are saying, nah, we're good. We're not going to play that one this time. We want to keep ourselves fresh. Meanwhile, some of your higher end players who didn't play, you can look back to a lot of them that had played a bevy of them in the whole the whole all nine or whatever of the clay court lead ups going into the French, had not had the rest. And that's the only reason I mentioned it. I don't have an answer. I'm not looking for one. I'm just asking. At some point, I feel it becomes their burden, right, to protect these players. You're going to get an injury. It's a sport. But at some point, you need to make this, you got to think about sustainability. You know what I mean? And I'm with you. Don't change the rules for those two players. I get that. That two player, I think that's a great comment. At some point, you have to think about it because you're selling a calendar is what you're selling. But these players are not automatons. They're not robots that can heal themselves and just go into the lab and do a few tweaks and they're good to go. They need time to heal. And some of our, and not getting that time and kind of, and having the constant flow of tournaments coming back makes it tough to even get back playing, let alone to play your best tennis throughout the year. So anyway,
I think
point to you.
I think it's a reflection of we've talked about how disjointed professional tennis is. When you use use the word they would be better served to do X, Y, and Z. It's who is the they we're talking about? Because we have a lot of different entities who are incentivized in different ways, right? The Grand Slams are the Grand Slams. The tours are running the rest of the events, right? But then the events themselves are their own little business units. So and then the players are all independent contractors.
Right.
It's so the players, they're incentivized to make as much money as they can while they're playing tennis, the vast majority of them, right? The top ones are incentivized to stretch out their career so that they can make high ends of money over time, right? And then the top players are more aligned with the Grand Slams. Everyone else is more aligned with I'm gonna play these 4 events before the Grand Slam because I got to get my points up so I can try to get seeded and make money to support the team, and then bring on more team members so I can try to push into the top 20. It's everyone is, even though we're all in the same tennis court at the same facility, they're all playing different games out here. And from a tour standpoint, and this is they never say it, but I always view it in the same way. The tours actually don't really care. I'm going to say right now, I don't think the tours care that much about the players because the players are by nature replaceable. They just circulate through. You never really have, every year there are new players coming in the top 100. There are people leaving. There are people coming in the top 50. There are people leaving. Last year we have Victoria Mboko in the top 10. Last year she wasn't in the top 100. Right? This thing keeps on moving. It keeps on moving. So
on the platform. No, there's
going to be 128 people in the draw. There's going to be 128.
No.
Someone's going to win tournament.
Last question on the side of things. I felt, and I know you probably felt similar, this last year in football was the most enjoyable to watch because so many games were so fiercely contested all the way through. I mean, you can say what you want about the Super Bowl. Even the Super Bowl was contested on the defensive side point. The playoffs were incredible to watch.
Sure.
The parity after years of, draft picks and, things going this way, that way, and the third have started to really, free agency, everything seems to have worked this year was a very, very good product for the NFL. I'm taking that on one side.
Mm-hmm.
This year, the tanking that's happening in the NBA seems to game the system a bit to me is starting to rear its ugly head to achieve said parity the other way, right? I I'm not comparing the two. I'm not giving I think the NF I think both have their own issues. I'm only mentioning from an entertainment situation. Alvin, you are I'm gonna call you the CEO of the WTA. What lessons from both do you take and do you think about as you're planning 2027 or beyond? What's a couple of things you're thinking about regarding what's working, what would look like going forward? And you may go in a hundred different directions on this one. That's up to you. What do you take from either NFL and NBA as a as a lead measure that you'd like to continue to get to your X goal? And what do you look at as to what to be careful for that one of the tours, that one of the other pro sports is having that you said, got to watch out for that with my tour. What say you?
Yeah. Um, God, I almost wish I had had some warm up or heads up on this one, but
Sure, but
let's.
you're the man.
If I'm thinking about the overall health of the WTA tour as the CEO of the WTA, there are a couple things that I want to make sure that I am kind of taking care of my foundation.
Mhm.
At the front of the game, the stars are going to be the stars,
Yep.
right? Your Sabalenkas and your Igas and your Amanda Anisimovas and your so on and so forth, right? Those who are at the top of the game are going to they're going to be fine, and they're going to like everything they do outside of the game to bring visibility to themselves is going to benefit the game itself.
Sure.
So I'm not actually too concerned about them at all. So
Mm.
anyone who's made a final of a Grand Slam in the last 18 months, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna continue. There's probably like two things I'm trying to do is be very keenly aware of the players that seem to matter. And this is the kind of the difference between our sport and team sports within a league. The NFL and the NBA can manufacture matchups. They create the schedule, right? They create the schedule. Like if I want OKC and the San Antonio Spurs to play against each other on Christmas Day, I just make it happen. I just do that. Yeah, we're gonna make that game happen. If I want Steph and LeBron to play on Easter, I just put it in the schedule, right? So when people are looking, I am making sure that they're looking at what I want them to look at, right? From a tennis standpoint, I'm always going to have winners who are winning tournaments and
Yep.
people who are winning tournaments. If you show up on the television on Sunday or Saturday, women's final Saturday of Wimbledon, people in the U.S. are going to be watching because that's what they're watching right now. So whoever's there is there. That's fine. But as I'm trying to grow the base of players, I want more players to have more spotlight.
Yeah.
And we don't have control of that because we have random draws, right? So like
Right.
if two players that could be the future of the WTA end up playing each other in the second round of an event, and it's like that's tough. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is to give them as much visibility as I can earlier in events, and that's by giving show courts to players, not necessarily reflective of their ranking, but reflective of like all of them as a brand.
Yep.
I think we have to be considering these players as brands.
Okay.
Someone like an Eva Lise. Eva Lise rates as a top 10 brand in the WTA, but she is
Right.
not a top 10 player, right? But she brings eyes because of her personality and all that she is as a person, right? Combined with her tennis, that makes her a valuable brand.
Yep.
And that regardless of how high her ranking goes, I want people to get to know her because then I effectively want these people to do things like buy subscriptions to Tennis Channel Plus or Tennis TV, whatever it might be, wherever you are. I want you to come out to events. I want you to buy a stadium ticket as opposed to a grounds pass on day 2 of the event. And if I can put Eva Lise in the stadium, you'll buy a stadium pass as opposed to a grounds pass if I have her on court 17, as opposed to insert this American player because we're playing in America, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then one thing that I've been really happy about and I want to continue to see is making tennis events more of an event. It's
Right.
not just about the tennis.
Right. More
Like
festival, like you mentioned before.
more festival like, and I think a lot of tournaments are leaning into that. They get Dallas Open just wrapped up. Our good friend Anastasia from Grounds Pass was there, and I'm watching her videos. And I was there last year. They're making incremental improvements to that event from year 1 to year 2 to bring more people into the stadium, make it more of a almost like an F1 style or NASCAR style. Like there's an infield, there's matches going on. Um, I think bringing people in very few times do people come to tennis tournaments and go, that wasn't fun,
Right.
right?
Right.
Get them there. If you get them there, they will have fun. If they have fun, they will go home and watch. They'll go home and watch and realize, oh, there's other tournaments on. I just got to pay,
Sure.
$20 a month, and I can watch all the tournaments, and they're on all the time. So that's how this thing builds. And I always push back against the uh, tennis needs to do something to defend against the pickleballs of the world. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think
Right.
tennis is fine. And
Yeah.
if you want to follow pickleball and as opposed to tennis, go,
Yeah.
go. We'll find the people. Junior tennis is fine, which means if we don't have a problem getting people into the game,
Right.
we got to get them into being fans of the game.
Being
So
his game. Yeah.
that's where I would
Good
lean
point.
in.
That's I'll be you didn't know this, Alvin, but I've got a secret pathway to the CEO of WTA. I'll be passing your I'll be passing.
I've got thoughts. I've got thoughts. And when we have JY Abone come on from Intense
Yeah.
Tennis, I got thoughts for him too. I got thoughts on all these things.
I love it. I
So many
love
thoughts. So many thoughts. I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. We've been rolling for a while here. That was good. We'll come back next week. Probably talk a little bit about Dubai. I think we got a special guest coming on here soon. I will we'll let the people know about that when we need to let the people know about that. But until then, I'm Alvin. That's Torrey. That's the 3. We are out.